Coming up on today's episode, we're talking about buy now, pay later. We're talking about the new regulations that have come into play, how buy now, pay later actually make money, how one woman ended up in $50,000 worth of debt, and does it impact your credit score? Spoiler alert, it does.
You may have heard many finance bros in the last few weeks talking about, should we be selling out of the US? Basically, everyone is panicking. Is there an AI bubble? What is going on with Trump? And should we be looking at diversifying? So we're going to get a chartered accountant's take.
Then we have the $110 billion merger between Warner Brothers and Paramount. There is something huge going on in the US with over 12 states that are objecting to this, but Sophie actually just wants to be paying less for her subscription. So who's right?
Not me, apparently.
And Sophie's got a bonus story, but we're giving you no details, so stick to the end to hear that one.
Hi, and welcome to The Curve Weekly, where we read the finance news so that you don't have to. I'm Sophie Hallwright, ex-TV and radio producer who really understood absolutely nothing about the economy, stock market investing. And today I'm joined by a very special guest.
Hey, I'm Abi Foster. I'm an ACA chartered accountant, but also finance creator, author, and presenter.
But before we dive in, a quick word from today's sponsor.
This episode of The Curve Weekly is made possible by Pathfinder KiwiSaver Plan, helping you invest alongside your values.
Pathfinder's won Mindful Money Best Ethical Investing Provider for 5 years running, so we've teamed up with them to bring you the Ethical Hotline.
Got questions about the ethics of an investment or unsure where you draw the line?
Submit your questions via the link in the podcast show notes, and thank you so much to Pathfinder for making this episode of The Curve Weekly possible. Pathfinder Asset Management Limited is the issuer of the Pathfinder KiwiSaver Plan. A product disclosure statement is available at pathfinder.kiwi. Today, we are very lucky to have Abi Foster, chartered accountant, founder, author,
Presenter, do a bit on social, just a bit.
I know. Oh my God. Yeah, I forgot the key one. So for anyone that doesn't already follow Abi on socials, she does such amazing content. What I love about the way that you talk about money, I feel like I'm in trouble sometimes, which is, I think, a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person I need to go to a gym class that I get yelled at. And I often find when you tell me I need to do something, I'm like, okay, I need to go do it. And maybe it's the teacher in you too, because that's another thing we haven't mentioned. You go into schools and do a lot of financial education.
Yeah, I think I've naturally brought that teaching style into my social media, and it's just because that's how I learned to kind of put my face on social media, because I'm not naturally, especially when I started, I wasn't naturally born for social. I wasn't recording myself for anything else. And then when I was doing that, I was like, I'm going to have to kind of put a persona on, and that persona became like teacher, Abi the accountant that teaches finance.
But yeah, you make it so easy for everyone to understand. And I have on my lap right now the Money Manual.
That is my first book, yeah.
And is the second one on its way?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Can you talk about it? Or is it all? Okay, right. So for anyone that's wondering why we have you filling in for Vic this week, she is focusing on some outrageously exciting things that we've been working on for a long time at The Curve. And she messaged me the other day saying, like, honestly, I really don't know how I'm going to find time for the podcast this week, and I don't want it to suffer. And I thought, do not fear. I know exactly who will be getting on. And I called Abi on a Sunday and I was like, how are you placed? Do you have any time to help us keep up with the news? So thank you so much for filling in.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. I love it.
So there's been lots of things going on in the news, in the world of finance, the stock market. There's been some big changes actually here in the UK, but really interestingly, if you zoom out and look at the broader economy, a lot of these stories and the things that we're going to cover today are very global. So the first one that I really wanted to speak to you about is the buy now, pay later updates. Mm-hmm. So this particular conversation, the reason we wanted to talk about it is because there's so much misinformation around what buy now, pay later actually means. And for anyone that's like, okay, this is everything from Klarna, Afterpay,
ClearPay. A lot of people are building their own versions because basically up until this week in the UK, it was completely unregulated. And so the FCA, so the Financial Conduct Authority, had no real jurisdiction on telling them what to do. And that was the problem, because then it meant that they could effectively pinkwash and make it into some sort of debt that wasn't a debt that was being targeted at women. It was being targeted at young people because there wasn't an FCA regulation in place to say you cannot sell this to you can't sell this to minors, so under 18. Now there is that. But there were loads of things that were crazy wrong with it. And buy now, pay later as a construct, if you are thinking well, how do they make money? Because I think often people think, well, buy now, pay later is great because you buy something now and then you put the money, and then it's that £30 dress that means you paid £10 a week for 3 weeks, or you pay that £30 at the end of the month, let's say. But What they don't realize is, if one, it's still a debt, and two, buy now, pay later companies are making fortunes off of the fact that they're incentivizing you to buy something that you probably couldn't have afforded, and therefore they're going back to the retailer you bought it from and taking a commission off of them.
But what I don't understand is how the business actually makes money, because you're not paying interest, right? The whole point of buy now, pay later is that there's no interest.
Yeah, so that's the point. So basically, buy now, pay later companies take commission off the companies that you buy products from. So let's say that you bought that dress from
I
ASOS.
did 5 minutes ago, because I spilt coffee all down the back of the one I was meant to be wearing.
Cute, we love.
I got into work today and our social media manager, Lucy, was like, there's a bit of brown stuff on the back of your white skirt. It was my coffee had splashed all over it. So I literally did go out and buy this today. So let's just pretend that I put it on buy now, pay later.
Fine. So
£50.
So let's say
How does it work?
£50, and you agreed that you're going to pay that £50 in 3 installments over, and it is just going to be equally split across 3 installments. So you're thinking, well, I'm not paying anyone anything. It's just making me split £50 across 3 payments. But what's happening is the buy now, pay later company that you use is going back to the provider you bought the dress from and saying, Sophie wouldn't have bought that dress if it wasn't for us, and so therefore you need to pay us commission. And that's what happened. And that's how they make a lot of their money, is basically going to ASOS, and ASOS go, oh, okay, yeah, fine, and hand them a commission based on what you've bought.
Okay.
They also do make money through interest, because a lot of people take out buy now, pay later when actually they can't afford debt, and so therefore land in debt, and then they start incurring interest. And then also they make middleman money from various other places as well.
So one of the things that's spoken about a lot is that buy now, pay later can be really brilliant. It can be really brilliant if you're using it in the right way. And people talk about it as a budgeting tool. And I was like, hold on a second. From your perspective, do you look at buy now, pay later as a helpful resource that can be really great for budgeting? Or is it just people that are trying to wrap it in a way that encourages us to be spending outside of our means?
Second, if I'm honest, I think the cons outweigh the pros, in my personal opinion. Is why, like, I've never really worked with a buy now, pay later company, purely because I just fear there's not enough education up front about what can go wrong. I think there's a lot of upfront education about all of the ways that it's really positive and it can help you budget. But a lot of people that use buy now, pay later have no other means of purchasing that item. And so they're betting on themselves being financially better off in a few weeks' time. And sometimes, and hopefully for a lot of people, it pays off and it's fine. But for some people, it doesn't. And then it's a really slippery slope into more aggressive debt, because you're then probably taking on other debt to pay off the first, and then you're creating a ripple chain.
And this is the whole snowball effect, right? Because in the same way that you can compound your returns when you're investing in a positive way, you can also compound debt in a really negative way. So it can just like snowball out of control. But I guess these new regulations that are coming in, because the wildest thing to me was like, it's been put into so many different places, like, for example, whether it's Deliveroo or Uber Eats or whatever. And like, there's no way someone needs to be budgeting for their Sunday morning hangover meal. Like, you cannot pass that as you know.
So with the new regulations now, so the regulations came out on the 15th of July, and then compared the market, we're doing loads of stats recently about how like 54% of people have no idea that these rules have even come into play, and like 14% of people would abandon purchases completely if declined by the buy now, pay later checkout, which I think is a positive thing, because it means that they couldn't have afforded it anyway. Because what they now have to do, so what the regulators, what the regulated industry now has to do, which is the buy now, pay later industry, they have to run checks on those that are trying to take out buy now, pay later, the same way that if someone was trying to take out a credit card, they'd run checks. They have to be upfront about all of the costs that are involved as well. They also get Section 75 protection on their purchases now that you didn't get before. So Section 75 is when if you purchase something on a credit card between £100 and £30,000, your credit card provider is jointly liable for your purchase. So if something goes wrong with it, the credit card provider will help you get your money back, basically. And basically Section 75 is now on a buy now, pay later as well. So they're becoming stricter at not just letting anyone being able to use it, which I think is really positive, because there are a lot of people that shouldn't be using it. Like you said, people that are using it for very small ticket items. If you can't feasibly afford to do that, there is a much bigger question that needs to be had.
Well, so this is what I was going to say. I remember the day that I nearly used it for the first time. And this was pre the curve, pre any kind of financial education. I thought one day I would love some new sunglasses. Did I need them? Definitely not. Were they cool? Yes. But Could I afford them? Absolutely not. And so I went into the shop and she said to me, the shop assistant was like, oh, well, we've got buy now, pay later. So if you want to blah, blah, blah. And I was going through the setup for it and I was like, tick, 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 like, whatever. It was so easy to get in and which is exactly the whole point of it, trying to be a bit more regulated. But I was the prime candidate for spending outside of my means. I hadn't thought about the fact that I wanted to buy new sunglasses and then save towards it. I just feel like this instant gratification that people get from using these types of platforms means it's almost enhancing this constant consumer behavior of if I want it, I will buy it and get it immediately. I don't know if there is actually any sensible way to be using buy now, pay later.
If you're super financially confident, you're super financially aware, maybe.
But in what context? Like, when would you use it and you think it's a good idea?
A bigger purchase. So like, let's say something was like a $200, $300, $400, pounds, dollar, whatever we're talking, purchase. That's probably when I'd look at it. I personally wouldn't use it just because it's something that I always sit by the means of like, if I wouldn't teach the next generation about it, I wouldn't do it myself. And I think with the next generation, I'm very cautious to say to them that it sits in one of two camps, because I think we're trying not to villainize debt, but also remind young people that like, just because it looks easy and looks pretty doesn't mean it is easy and should be used. Yeah, with buy now, pay later, there could be some people that think it's really efficient and really helpful for them. If they've never gone into debt because of it, fantastic. But do I think everyone should get on board with it? No. And I think there needs to be a lot more education about what it actually is as well, because I think people see like free or no interest and just assume that that means free forever and easy.
I think, now I hear you speak, let's say, for example, I wanted to get 12 laser appointments and it was going to cost me £1,000 or something, and I knew I was only going to get one of those treatments every month and it was going to be £70 a month or whatever it is, and I could pay it off in that way, and then I got access to a discount because I was buying a package deal. Maybe you could justify the idea that, okay, well, I'm splitting those payments over when I'm actually using it, and that makes sense. But I just completely don't trust myself to not miss a deadline of then accruing interest. So for me, it's a no-brainer not to, but I hear what you're saying. There are instances where perhaps it could be okay.
And like the other thing that came into play with buy now, pay later is it now does impact your credit score. So if you missed a payment in the past.
I think this is the most interesting part of it, because the whole reason that so many people were using it is because they didn't think there was any kind of negative flow-on effects, right?
Yeah.
But actually, if you have a bad credit score, you sometimes can't get leverage to buy a house, open a business. Like, it's really genuinely long-term damaging.
Yeah, and I think the most vulnerable are women and young people that use it thinking it's easy, don't realize they miss a payment and they go, oh, it's okay. Don't realize there's now these new regulations. And then they look at their credit score and it's been impacted because they've missed the payment or they're now incurring charges.
Guys, this is so important. Anyone that's listening, if you know anyone young, actually, to be honest, anybody, make sure they understand the implications of using debt badly, because you can use debt in such amazing ways and grow your wealth. You can also massively negatively impact your future if you fuck things up. Sorry,
one of those things I see on social media a lot is like, what's cool if you're wealthy and not cool if you're poor, and debt is really one of them. Like, very wealthy people, like you were talking about Elon Musk last week, like he's so leveraged up to the hill, i.e. he's got so much debt, and because he's wealthy it's fine. But when
you're like,
you're
oh,
poor,
chic, you've got debt.
Well, I don't think he is.
There's nothing
like,
chic about them.
No, but like
totally.
in theory, like when you're wealthy, you can just keep leveraging, keep borrowing, and it's fine because you've got assets to borrow against, all of this kind of stuff. But when you're poor and you play about with debt, it can go very sour very fast. And I think that's why young people, because they're 18 and they're now on the financial ladder, right? And they're the ones that need to be really careful, because it's a game of snakes and ladders. And when you're just starting out, it can bring you right back to the bottom really quickly.
Snakes and ladders, what a throwback. How annoying if your debt just slid you down a 10-step ladder.
Exactly.
Real pain in the ass.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, they'll say like, oh, well, I've been using buy now, pay later and it's fine. And like, yeah, maybe I've missed one payment, but it's okay. And in the past, maybe that was fine on your credit score, but now you're going to snake all the way back down, because actually it is going to impact your credit score and you're going to have to build that back up.
Snakes and ladders. Do you snake down? Not the ladder's up and then the snake is down.
Yeah.
Oh.
What did I just say?
You said that, but I was like thinking you're sliding down the ladder.
Oh, the ladder. No. Well,
obviously haven't played in a while.
I know. Sometimes though, when you're in your 30s, you think this, that like, you just feel like you're just like going up and down all of them. You're like, I don't know anymore. Am I going up the thing? Am I going down?
Up the ladder? I'm pretty confused.
I feel like I take one step forward in one part of my life and then I like turn around and I'm like, why is that part of my life just slid to the bottom? Yeah.
But it's funny because I was looking at the stats. Okay, this actually is not funny at all. There's nothing funny about it. But in the UK, nearly 70% of buy now, pay later customers are women. So it's so disproportionately women that are targeted using this. Yeah, I don't know. I think that in itself is a massive issue. And so if you're listening to this, I think we need to probably not normalize the idea of using buy now, pay later. It's not, it shouldn't really be one of those chic things. I mean, I was reading an article yesterday, someone in the New York Times, it was a journalist that was following a young woman. She was like involved in fashion and she accumulated nearly $50,000 worth of debt from her buy now, pay later purchase because she was just constantly trying to keep up with her friends, buy new designer bags and clothes. And she fell down the snake or the ladder. And all of a sudden was in so much debt. And
it breaks my heart. I think actually like social media has a real role to play in that and like reminding everyone as well that like the comparison culture is really hard and also that we don't always need everything new all the time and we don't need to look like everyone else all the time. I know I struggle with it a lot. I feel like as someone that's quite front facing, I feel like I'm constantly having to reinvent my wardrobe like every week and I worry about wearing something twice or wearing an outfit that I might have worn in another speech somewhere else and will people judge me? And I know people don't care, but actually it is hard. I get it, how girls can end up in these situations.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm going to a wedding this weekend and I'm wearing a dress that I wore to a wedding less than a month ago, which I absolutely need to spot clean. Should have taken it to the dry cleaner. Totally forgot about it. Will not have time. But I'm wearing the same outfit and I really was thinking that. I was like, I really want a new dress. I would love to wear something new. And I had to really look at myself and be like, I was so excited to wear that dress a month ago. It's the same dress. I looked great in it. But it is. I think that particularly when there's so many photos and videos of you, I think it makes it worse. Because
I'm going to a wedding in September. I'm going to rent. That's going to be my thing. Although sometimes it is still funny, but I'm going to rent because the dress code is like funky over the top vibes.
It's quite fun.
Which I'm really looking forward to. But my wardrobe and my job doesn't really lend hand in hand to funky over the top wedding guest attire. So I was like, I think I'm going to rent. And that was my way of convincing myself that it's okay because it's rented and then I can hand it back.
The next news item that I would love to hear your insight on, I am seeing everywhere this absolute panic station with what is happening in the US. So people are talking about the idea of divesting from the US. And so for anyone that is not sure what that means, we are in earnings season or about to go into earnings season, which generally means the stock market's going up, down, sideways because all these results are coming out. So people are making decisions. So that's happening. And then we've also spoken about the AI bubble and everyone panicking about it all bursting. And we'll get to what's happening with SpaceX in a second. But just generally, there's so much conversation around the idea of how overinvested a lot of us are in the US. I think it's like most people that are in global equities and ETFs are up to like 70% invested in the US. So I guess my question is, can we just zoom out and look at what's happening with the US stock market? I feel like I'm sort of hearing so much about it. And I know what Vic would say. She would say, do not panic, do not make decisions. But I wanted to hear what your personal approach is when it comes to this and how you're thinking about where your investments are.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it a lot at the moment. I'm thinking quite global purely because you're right. Even global trackers are very heavily weighted to the US because obviously if you think even within the S&P 500, which is the top 500 companies in the US, you know, the Magnificent Seven, which is the 7 biggest tech stocks, make up a huge proportion of that. Like even the value of those companies combined is like bigger than some of the global GDP of like certain countries in the world. Like it's absolutely wild. Like they have so much power, so much control. The AI era as well is giving people the fear of the .com era of when basically anything that had .com or the website or internet involved just was like skyrocketing in price. And then the problem was at one point we started to realize that not everything could be that valuable. And did it actually have that much value? And I think people are semi-worried that the same thing could happen with AI. And we have gone through eras of life as well where, like, you know, the UK was the biggest economy in the entire world. And then it was China. Then Japan at one point was the biggest economy in the world. We're talking hundreds of years, right? But now US is like this monster of an economy. And people are going, okay, well, when does the bell curve start to come down again? And I think that's people's main concern at the moment, because they are run by a very volatile president. And he has made so many rogue decisions in the last few years, and I think people were just feeling quite fearful, because for a long time the S&P 500 or the US market had this sort of consistency where people would say things like, well, on average returns about 8% and sometimes more.
I think it got to 11. I've been saying that 11 recently.
Well, and that's fine. Do you know what I mean? But like,
still, that's so high.
It is high. And like on average, it was this kind of consistency, this sort of like we knew, and then now it's just becoming so volatile. And people don't really know where they stand. And also the market doesn't like instability. It really it doesn't like not knowing. It doesn't like chaos. And that is everything that Trump basically represents. Like, he wakes up and posts on his Truth Social and the market just goes nuts.
Sorry, it's not at all funny. I don't know why.
No, but it's like, it is wild. Like, even anyway, we won't get into how it crosses with the UK, but it is having an impact on everyone, because, you know, more and more people are waking up to the world of investing, and then they're thinking, oh God, I'm really weighted into the US. And so I would, if I've looked at my own portfolio and I've had a look at things like emerging markets instead, and maybe the East and what's going on over there, and how else is the world combating what's going on in the US? Because, well, earnings season started with, obviously, the big dogs like Goldman Sachs and Netflix all coming out with their figures, but also inflation figures came out this week. So the US inflation went from 4.5% in May to 3.2% in June.
That's quite good though, isn't it?
Yes.
Going down?
However, the reason it went down is because oil prices started to drop again, because obviously they went up massively, then they've come down slightly. However, this was June's figures, so this is a backwards looking metric. Inflation is always in the past. So we're looking at, basically, if we're looking at the June... Yeah, so June inflation figure that came out at 3.2% is basically saying that June 2025 figures, a basket of goods, let's say, and services, compared to June 26 figures, the difference is 3.2%. That's what it's gone up by.
I did not realize that.
And also, inflation is an average figure, so not everything's gone up by 3.2%.
Yes.
Some things have gone up higher, some things have slowed down.
I've not heard this before.
Yeah, it's really important to understand. People think of inflation as this sort of thing that's happening now. It's not. It's a backwards looking metric. So, and you know, they've released 3.2%, and like, yes, but be aware that then Trump woke up and again forgot the Strait of Hormuz was important, and they shut it again because they were angry at him. Sorry, there's a better political way to put this, but that's basically what's happening.
So fine.
And now the prices of oil went back up again. And so then that could impact them again. And, you know, and then it means interest rates have stayed semi-stable, but then also interest rates in the US have been one of those things that we could always rely on because they're run by the Federal Reserve. So the US equivalent to our Bank of England, so our central bank. And until recently, they're just left alone to do their job, right? And we can all trust that they're all going to do their jobs and it's all going to be fine. And then Trump, in the last few years, has gone, I don't like you, i.e. like one of the people within the Fed. I want to get rid of you. And so that's what he was trying to do with Lisa Cook, who was this woman in the Fed. And all because basically she didn't vote in interest rates how he voted, basically.
Classic.
And thankfully, the US Supreme Court came in and were like, no, you can't just get rid of people because you don't like them. But it did cause a bit of instability because then we were all like, well, what can we trust anymore? Like, you know, if he's allowed to just basically come in and dictate what interest rates are set, all that kind of stuff. So I think there's not only volatility in the US market because of AI and the heavy weighting on tech stocks, which are all based in the US, well, most of them. There's also this huge problem around the instability of the current president and what does that look like and is there an end kind of thing. So I think a lot of people are looking outside, which is interesting, and I think everyone should.
Yeah, diversification.
Exactly.
I was researching for this and I wanted to see if I had any thoughts on what's happening in America and would I divest, and, you know, not that I'm a professional trader, but I didn't realize that Trump had 6 businesses filed for bankruptcy between 1991 and 2009. 6. Can you imagine if the Curve went bankrupt and then I had the audacity to start 5 more businesses?
Well, technically in the UK, you wouldn't be allowed for like 7 years. You wouldn't be allowed to run the company again for like 7 years.
Isn't that absolutely wild? Think about the ego you would have to back yourself time and time and time again. One of the things as well that I was looking into was, it's quite interesting. All of the presidents who have been in the White House before made their fortune when they left the White House. It was writing books, it was speeches, it was the credibility that they gained from being president, whereas he is the only president that has made his money in office. And the amount that he's made is $2.2 billion, which is like 4 times what he made in 2024. He's like the wealthiest president in modern history by like an enormous, enormous margin, and apparently all of those, all of the presidents that you look at, whether it's like Bush, Obama, they give their assets almost into like a blind trust that they can't see what's happening with it. None of the decisions that they're making in their job can be impacting their investments because they don't know what's happening. They're disconnected. Whereas Trump's investments are being like managed by his 2 adult sons or something crazy.
Yes.
It's like, honestly, how is this even?
It's the ultimate.
Thing?
Like, doesn't he run The Apprentice in the US? Is it called something different there?
I don't know.
Yeah, that was how he got his big break. Because he was like because in the UK, The Apprentice is run by Alan Sugar, and he was like the Alan Sugar in the US. And like, this is the ultimate reality show for him. It just is. Like, we can joke about it, but like, being president of the United States is the ultimate reality show for Donald Trump. He is able to just be the biggest face, the biggest name. Like, who on earth goes out and like builds Truth Social just because you got kicked off Twitter so that he can and he impacts the markets by just going on Truth Social. How I think it was.
What is that? Is that a new social media platform?
Truth Social was his social media platform that he basically tweets on because he's not allowed to tweet on Twitter. No, sorry, X. It's absolutely wild. He made so much from crypto in the last few years, all of that, like billions of pounds.
It's like 1.5 billion from crypto.
Yeah, because he talks about it. Like, it was so disrespectful recently. He went on to Truth Social to basically announce that our Prime Minister at the time, Keir Starmer, was leaving. Like, he shouldn't be able to do that. And there is some sort of like, we've been living this like group understanding in the world that there's some things you like, the decorum of like how politics works, and
that's one thing that man does not have.
And this is the thing, he's just blown it up and gone, all of this is a reality show, get on board.
I would love to know if you've made any different decisions lately with your portfolio. Like, have you actually actively divested, or are you just now looking at other opportunities and emerging markets being one of them?
I'm looking at quantum computing a lot at the moment.
Is what?
Great question.
Honestly,
it's basically what will be needed to keep AI going. Like the computers that are going to be needed to like keep up the level of power that we need for AI. And it's like AI on steroids, basically. And I've been looking at a lot of quantum computing businesses, been looking into, like I said, emerging markets. Like, what does that look like? Emerging markets in Africa, emerging markets in Asia. Like, there's lots of interesting things going on. I'm not saying that I've like ripped up the rule book of my investment portfolio and start again, but I am having a look. But investing, I think, don't panic. Don't throw like all your toys out the pram, but just be cautiously aware.
Can we do a quick SpaceX update?
Yes.
So do maybe a quick overview for anyone that doesn't know SpaceX, what's going on, and then what is actually happening.
So SpaceX is the space technology company of Elon Musk, who obviously owns Tesla. It filed for an IPO, so initial public offering, on the NASDAQ in the US. The reason it went with the NASDAQ is because they basically were able to like fast forward getting their IPO when actually it would have taken them much longer if they'd gone on like the New York Stock Exchange, etc. But when they filed, they were listed at $135 a share. Obviously, it skyrocketed. It made Elon Musk a trillionaire. It has actually come down since its IPO a few weeks ago. It's now dropped to $132.50. So not only has it dropped below what its initial IPO was, as in it's not only got back to what its initial IPO was, it's dropped even below that. So from its high, because at one point it skyrocketed right on its IPO day, it's now dropped 40%. So he has now lost his trillionaire status, which is probably a good thing. But yeah, if you were invested in SpaceX, it's something to be really aware of. And I think a lot of people should have been very cautious when they dipped their toe in with that, because it was a very rushed IPO. It was a very rushed situation.
Did you invest?
No.
I don't think there were any female investors that invested.
I just think we're just better and
We're just better.
evaluating people. And we look at people and we go, I don't want to even give you money through that. Unfortunately, there isn't much choice because obviously Tesla's on the stock market and all the rest of it. But, I think some of us went, okay, interesting.
Cute. Keep
Could you solve world hunger?
Also, if you want to go to Mars, I'm not mad about it. Take all your shit friends with you.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
then stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops, you can't get home. Sorry.
Coming up after the break, we're going to be talking about the $110 billion merger between Warner Brothers and Paramount and what that actually looks like.
And also, guess what? I've got a bonus story. Yeah, I know. I've done my research. But first, I've got a quick word from today's sponsor. I invest so much more now, but I still don't feel great about profiting from companies that I don't believe in. Weapons. I personally do not want to be making money from conflict.
But what about weapons companies that supply like both sides of the conflict? Pretty confusing, right?
I know, it's so confusing, and I feel like I'm not alone in that.
Yeah, 80% of New Zealand investors don't want weapons in their KiwiSaver, yet Mindful Money reports that over $400 million is still invested in weapons manufacturers, which is why choosing the right provider matters, like Pathfinder KiwiSaver plan, which aims to avoid profiting from conflict.
They've been recognised as weapons free by Mindful Money and written loads of blogs on this topic, even covering their position on Gaza, which a lot of people have avoided. So if you want to check out our podcast show notes to learn more, and thanks so much to Pathfinder for making this episode of the Curve Weekly possible. Pathfinder Asset Management Limited is the issuer of the Pathfinder KiwiSaver plan. A product disclosure statement is available at pathfinder.kiwi. Abby, can we please have an overview? So, for anyone that missed this was a massive deal. We talked about it for weeks on the Curve Weekly. Netflix and Paramount were trying to buy Warner Brothers.
Yes.
So the reason this was such a big deal is at the moment, the media industry is completely fragmented. I don't know about you, but I have like 9 or 10 subscriptions to different bloody streaming platforms.
Yes.
I am constantly finding myself thinking, I want to watch that. And then I have to either buy it or I subscribe to something else. As a consumer, I will say I wouldn't mind a bit of consolidation on the media front, but most people's concern about the idea of that and the idea of these massive companies merging is that you're kind of in a position where I guess social media has diversified voices and how content is created and what we digest and consume is, I don't know, I guess it's a more accurate representation of what's going on in the world because it's not being funneled through 1 or 2 businesses. There's lots and lots of different production companies. So on the one hand, as a consumer, I feel like, oh God, could you all please buy each other so I can just pay 1 subscription? But on the other hand, I really understand the importance of having diversified production houses. Why is this story so interesting? And what is the recent update and what's going on in the US?
So Netflix are out. They're out of the competition. It's now just Warner Brothers, Paramount, and it's looking like a $110 billion merger. And it seems simple on the face of it that they could buy each other. However, 12 US states have actually come out and tried to sue this situation to say that they really don't think it's acceptable for this to happen because they think it will create a monopoly, that basically they will then be able to be in control of like pricing and, what movies come out. Like I was reading some of the stats that like more than 25% of major film releases in the US would be coming through them. So that's quite a large portion. Like you said, the US market already at the moment is so large, and is it going to create this sort of monopolized business? And with US states basically coming out and saying that we'd sue if this happens, it basically means that there's a little bit of a glitch in the road for this situation. So it's not actually going through yet. It's not been confirmed. But one thing is confirmed is that Netflix are no longer a part of it, and people are not happy because it's going to create a monopoly where there shouldn't be one.
Is it a naive thought, the one that I said before, where I was like, I would love for there to be less subscriptions? Like, is that actually a really stupid way to look at it?
No, I don't know. I would never call you stupid. But I would say it's frustrating because basically I would be the same. I would love to just pay 1 subscription and everyone just gets on board and we all get our TV shows from the same place. But the problem is less competition means that, like I've said, there will be the ability for them to just keep pushing the prices up and we can't go anywhere because there's no one else. And also it drives less creativity because they don't have to be creative. They don't have to be clever about this stuff because they know that there's nowhere else for us to go, which I sort of understand. So we'll have to see how this goes.
Yeah. I mean, I just would love if someone could come up with a subscription that was maybe more expensive, but that gave me access to quite a few different ones, like almost someone above the subscriptions. That
I think in the UK we've got like Sky's trying to do that, where like you buy Sky and then you get all of the subscriptions through
I
it.
believe Sky's still a thing. Does anyone watch Sky? Do you watch Sky?
I'm on Sky News quite often.
No, but do you watch it?
Well, yeah.
But do you actually watch?
Well, I watch Sky News, yes, because it's like easy.
And where is it? On television, like on a TV?
What? I'm sorry.
No, I'm being
Where
fully
are
serious.
you, Gen Z?
I mean, all I am is on Netflix. If I'm being honest, actually, no, I'm not. I'm on Netflix. I'm on Apple.
Do you not
I'm
watch
on
the
Prime
news?
Video? No.
Where do you watch the news?
The Curve Weekly. You are my
You
news.
Sorry.
No, I don't. I really don't. I find
You don't listen to the radio, I can't imagine.
No,
Do you know what LBC is? No?
not a clue.
Oh, brilliant. I also do that.
LBC.
Yeah.
No, I know, 'cause
leading Britain's conversation.
You messaged me saying, can you add like a link to it? And I was like, I don't know what LBC is.
Yeah, LBC is a radio show in the UK. But yeah, I feel like a grandma now. But yes, there are such things as television and the news, and there is also radio. That still exists. People do still turn their radio on and listen to the news.
I feel like I accidentally slapped you in the face and it was
a little bit, yeah, but it's okay. I will just, it's all right.
But I think
I'll try and come back next week and smile about it.
What we can take from this is that I am uneducated and I don't listen to enough news. But honestly, that's why the Curve Weekly started, because I really feel quite allergic to the news. I find it so hard to understand.
Yeah.
I find it I find it really overwhelming.
You are honestly one of the majority. I'm one of the minority. Like, I have so many people that come to my Instagram page for the only reason they come to my page is because I get up early in the morning and I post 3 things. Like, I post these things called like the morning money news stars, where I post 3 stars every morning about like the finance news, basically, right? And I do like a sentence on each. And I
love
get
it.
so many messages from people being like, if you didn't post this, I wouldn't know anything.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit
And so don't worry, you're one of the majority. I'm the minority, because I do sit there and I watch Sky News, I watch BBC, I listen to the Financial Times. I mean,
and then it's why you've come on as an expert for the Curve Weekly.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Thank God someone's watching, honestly. I did find a story which I would like to share with the class. I was reading this story about this guy called Tony. He's a 6-year-old Costco cashier from Arizona, and he has just realized that he has $1 million in his 401k, so his pension, KiwiSaver, Super, wherever you are in the world. And he was earning $32.90 an hour. He was on an hourly wage, so like not on a particularly good salary. And he's worked there for 40 years. I was just like, oh my God, bless Tony's heart. So he's worked at Costco for 40 years. But I just thought this is such a brilliant example of how if you treat your staff well and you really help educate them, you make sure that they're doing the right thing in terms of their pension, that, you know, as an employer, they're contributing and helping them get to a point where they have financial stability and security. Like, the fact that he has managed to do that for anyone that is thinking, I don't have enough to invest, or I'm never going to have enough money to be able to retire. 40 years ago, he was on $5.85 an hour. And he has been and that was in 1986, and he's been putting money aside ever since then for 40 years, and now he has enough to retire. And I just thought, guys, for anyone that is like, how do we do it? It's so expensive and it's so hard to find enough money and to feel, I guess, like I'm just never going to reach these goals, or I'm never going to be able to stop working. It's consistency and it's time, and you don't have to be investing a lot, just a little bit, consistently and over time. But also, I think it's a really brilliant story from a business perspective. They have purposefully paid their staff more. They know that they then have like lower training costs, better customer service, because they have these people that have been there for 40 years. Like, how gorgeous is that story? I loved it. And I also think that one of the things that we're told often, like Gen Z or millennials, is the idea that if you leave a job, because I thought this when I was younger, when I was in a job and I was earning really quite bad money, I thought like job hopping was the best way to earn money and like raise my salary. And I did do that. I left a few jobs and I bopped around, and I did increase my salary a lot. But I was reading a statistic that was basically saying the difference from people that are trying to job hop to get pay increases is only £70 across the year. Like, as in, it's what people used to think was going to bring them wealth in terms of like trying to earn more money. Of course, like we're all on that mission, but actually the idea of like consistency and long-term service can pay off. And maybe it is the case, like big flashy bonuses obviously like make a huge difference to being able to go and put that money towards bigger long-term goals. But hey, if you're on an hourly salary and you're thinking, how the hell am I ever going to make $1 million? Bloody Tony got there at 60.
That's cute.
It's quite cute, isn't it?
Yeah.
Before we wrap up today's Curve Weekly, we have got a question for the Ethical Hotline, which is very exciting. So we're going to throw to Lily, who is our ethical investing expert from Pathfinder. Welcome back to the Ethical Hotline. This is a really short, sweet, but very good question. The question that came through is just, how do you invest ethically? Where to start? I kind of love it. It's so simple, but it's also such a huge can of worms. So would love to hear, Lily, what your and the rest of the team at Pathfinder's thoughts are on this particular question.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, obviously Pathfinder has our own take on ethical investing, and I think that's a really important point to make, which is that there's no standard definition. Generally, it's like ethical investing means including non-financial metrics into your decision-making process because you care about the impact that your decisions have on the world around you. But how you do that is unique to say what fund manager you are, but also a lot of your listeners are independent investors and they make their own stock decisions. So I thought like it might be kind of cool to describe how you would go about creating your own mini ethical investment policy.
I love this. I love the idea of giving yourself almost some parameters or rules to make those decisions. And it's kind of for anyone that doesn't know what a fund manager is. Lily works at Pathfinder, it's a funds management company. So what they do is they have company-wide investment theses for things. So what we're basically talking about today is if you were wanting to invest ethically and you wanted to almost run your own investment approach through your own lens that feels right for you, what would be the ways that you would build that and what would you include in that investment thesis?
Yeah, exactly. So there are many ways to do this, but I'm proposing a very simple way, and it's got 3 steps. So the first step would be to figure out what your principles or values are. So essentially it's like what you think is right. Now, values is a really common term, but don't be freaked out or disappointed or feel any shame if you don't know what your values are. Not everyone does. And actually, we might have thought we did, but then that might change as we get older or our situation changes. So a chance to reevaluate your values is always really fun and interesting. And ways to do this, I would suggest that you inquire of yourself and ask yourself things like, okay, what do I think there should be more of? Or what do I admire in other people? Or what's something I'd never compromise on? Answers to these kinds of questions give you a sense of what it is that you really value, what you hold most dear, what you won't compromise or give up on. And, there's no right or wrong answer, but you might discover things like you really value ambition or you really value loyalty. It might be something like compassion or patience. And again, no wrong answers, but just write these down. And then from there, you can use those values and look at those values and go, based on what this person, me in this instance, really thinks is important, what should I try and avoid investing in? Like what wouldn't make sense for someone who cares about these things to invest in? Really common examples in the world of investing from values-based exclusions are things like alcohol, pornography, gambling, and tobacco. But like if you're very passionate about the environment, you might also want to exclude extractive fossil fuels, as an example.
I love this. And I think a really simple thing that you could do is get a journal, get a piece of paper, do it on your computer, whatever works for you, and write those questions down. And you're right, people can feel overwhelmed by figuring out what their values are or their morals, but you don't need to spend hours and hours contemplating this. It's just really nice to feel like where your money is going is in alignment with how you feel.
Absolutely. We've actually created a simple resource that can help you build your own mini ethical investing policy.
Oh, this is so fun.
Yeah, so there'll be a link in the show notes to connect you to that. But I was thinking the final step really is that now that you know what you value, what you want to avoid, then you also ask yourself, well, what do you want to prioritize? What do you want to see more of? What would you like to have grow? What would you like to help elevate? You can take this little template, fill it out. You can use it when you're researching stocks. You can use it when you're investigating ETFs. You could even take it to a financial advisor and go, hey, here's me as an investor on a page. Of course, I have my financial considerations as well, which are really important to me. But when it comes to ensuring that my portfolio reflects my values, these are the things I want you to take into account.
Oh, this is so cool. This is so cool. I love that you've created this resource. How amazing. So for anyone that would like to give it a go, have a look. We'll put all of those details in the podcast show notes. But yeah, thank you so much, Lily. God, we're so lucky to be able to use you and the rest of the team at Pathfinder to explore this subject matter, because it's so important but so overwhelming for people. But that is just the most simple, easy thing for people to do. So thank you so much.
Brilliant.
If anyone else is listening and you've got another question that you would like answered, it could be honestly anything to do with the space, please do submit it. There's been some amazing questions that have come in and we're going to be answering one of them every month. So thank you so much, Lily. And yeah, thank you to everyone that submitted their questions. The views expressed by Pathfinder via the Ethical Hotline are of a general nature and are not specific to Pathfinder's product. To learn more about Pathfinder and what they do, please visit pathfinder.kiwi. Okay, everyone have a stunning week. We'll see you next Monday for the Curve Weekly with Abi Foster. And for anyone that wants to find daily money updates, where can they find you?
So my Instagram is Abigail Rose Foster. It's the same on TikTok, Substack, YouTube. I'm everywhere.
Can I also just say, I'm loving the slightly husky voice you've got going on.
Yeah.
It's quite sexy.
Thank
I
you
think
so
it's
much.
really a vibe.
Yeah, I think
I'm
I'm
not sure
just
if you're
over
sick or run down, but
I'm just a bit run down, but we're okay. We're back next week.
Working.
Thank
I think
you so
it's
much.
really working for you. Okay, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to the Curve Weekly. Make sure you hit subscribe or follow wherever you're listening so you're always up to date with the latest finance and investing news.
And feel free to leave a comment to let us know what you thought about this episode, because we would love your feedback.
We've got new Curve Weekly episodes for you to listen to every Monday, but until then, listen to Erasing the Curve. These are our in-depth podcast episodes where we chat about all things money.
We're also around all week on socials if you're hungry for more Curve content, and all the links are in this podcast's show notes. We hope you have a great week, and we'll catch you for the next episode of the Curve Weekly on Monday.
Okay, quickly, the Curve was created to empower and educate you about investing, but we are not financial advisors.
Our platform exists for educational purposes only, and it doesn't provide personalized investing advice for your individual needs and should not be relied upon to make an investment or financial decision.
And always remember to do your own research before making any investment or financial decision.
We're here for any knowledge and support you need, but the final call is always yours.
And thanks for being here.
You got this.
Yeah, we know you got this.